All right, looks like we're pretty steady at 13 people, so uh, we'll have a couple more joining, but for now, I'll go ahead and get us started. So welcome to our presentation on federal government contracting certifications. My name, for those of you who don't know me, is Finn Kreidler. I'm here with Omar today to talk about this topic. Now, this is definitely a bit more of like an introduction slash dive into a couple updates and sort of look at the current landscape of government contracting certifications for small businesses. So definitely, if you're interested in learning more, can do something more in depth for you all, but wanted to give an overview and sort of a update on some current changes to federal government contracting certifications. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. We don't have a dedicated question space, and we'll be taking those questions at the end of the presentation. So I'm going to go ahead here and get started. These are the objectives we have for the presentation today. We're going to start off with a bit of an overview for those of you who don't know about our program, with an overview of the APEX Accelerator, just a little bit of background into that. We'll then go into what are certifications. Again, we're talking about federal certifications specifically here. Just know that there are state and local ones potentially, and those are a topic for another day. We'll talk through why do these certifications matter. We'll talk through the types of them, the application process at a sort of higher level, the benefits that you can potentially see from getting one of these certifications, the current federal landscape, potential changes, and the Q&A. We will be sending everyone who attends a copy of this presentation, and if you're in attendance as well, you can get a recording too if you'd like. We'll have a email address at the end of the presentation where you can shoot us an email if you want a link to that. So yeah, you'll get both the copy of the slides as well as a recording as well. So we'll dive into it and start through with the overview of the APEX Accelerator program. There are the mission of the APEX Accelerator program, as here, is to serve as the axis for existing and new businesses to strengthen the defense industrial base by accelerating innovation, fostering ingenuity, and establishing resilient and diverse supply chains. We started as part of the PTAP program, the Procurement Technical Assistance Program. Some of you might have heard of us referred to as PTACs before. We're authorized by Congress in 1985, and the main goal is to expand the number of businesses participating in government contracts. The name was changed when we moved over to the Office of Small Business Programs under the Department of Defense, and our mission has not changed since then. The nationwide program of APEX accelerators has one common goal, which is to bring U.S. Suppliers and buyers together. Our buyers and the focus is to increase small business participation. So each APEX has a different region, which we'll go into ours in a bit, but the goal is to increase small business participation and get small businesses wins. We offer all of our services at no cost to small businesses, and offer things like one-on-one counseling, training, and opportunities in market research as well. This is some of the sort of goals that we have here. This is not an extensive list, but I think it really encapsulates sort of the core of our mission. And you'll see the third item, small business certifications and participation, is the topic we'll be focusing on today. And again, here are some more of the services that we offer. This is would say the bulk of what we do, especially one-on-one counseling assistance, is really a lot of what people leverage us for. But we'll have we do operate under all of these other things as well. And if you're not already connected with us, make sure to do so we can get you involved. This is our current service area, so we serve these 41 counties that are listed on here. Again, if you're not in one of these counties, can still take advantage of things like our webinars and matchmakers and things of that nature. And then here is a little bit more of a comprehensive list of our services in here. So again, if you are curious about that and aren't connected with us, here's some of the things that we can offer to you. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Omar to give us a dive into what certifications are, sort of start off on a couple of our agenda items. So Omar, take it away.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Great. Good morning, everyone. My name is Omar. I'm one of the procurement counselors on the Empire APEX team. So I'll just briefly talk about what are certifications and the importance of certifications and the benefits of certifications. So next slide, please. Yeah, great. So certifications in this presentation, we'll specifically talk about certifications in the federal space. So certifications in the government contracting space refer to the process by which small businesses are recognized by the government agencies after meeting specific criteria that qualify them for various programs. So in the federal space, the certification process is handled by the SBA, which is the Small Business Administration, which is the body um, and enacted to certify businesses, recertify businesses, and reject applications if the business doesn't qualify. Next slide, please. So why do certifications matter? What's the whole talk about certifications? Why they matter? Next slide. So certifications provide eligible small businesses with opportunities to bid on exclusive solicitations and provide networking opportunities. And some of the benefits include set-aside contracts, which are basically exclusive contracts that are set aside specifically for businesses with those certifications that we'll talk about more in detail. And the second benefit is the rule of two, which basically, simply put, is about if there are two or more small businesses in the marketplace that qualify to perform a specific contract, the contracting officer is required to set that aside for those small businesses to compete instead of putting that solicitation in the market for all of the primes, for all the big companies and small ones to compete. So in that case, it reduces the competition for the small businesses to get a fair chance of winning contracts. And then the other big benefit is the prime contracting or subcontracting. So let's say, for example, you come across an opportunity on SAM.gov. That's a big contract that you cannot handle on your own. You can partner with a prime where they will take the lead on the contract, and then you will be a subcontractor. That way you have less responsibility and still be able to get some dollars on the table. Next slide, please. So type of certifications. Next slide. So there are 4 types of certifications that are managed by the SBA, and the business can apply for more than one certification if they qualify for that program. So the first certification is the HUBZone, which aims to promote economic development in historically underutilized business zones in the U.S. So I don't know if you guys are aware, but some parts of the U.S. are historically underutilized in terms of business opportunities. So this program aims to close that gap, to make it fair for all of the regions in the U.S. to get a fair chance of getting contracts. And then the next certification is the women-owned small business, which supports businesses that are 51% owned and controlled by women, and additionally a subset of the women-owned small business program is the EDWOSB, which is the economically disadvantaged women-owned small business. So that certification helps women that are disadvantaged economically. So to qualify for that program, you have to show that you are disadvantaged financially in some way by providing financial documentations to prove that. And then the next certification program is the 8A program, which aims to support small businesses owned by socially and economically individuals who need business development help or need help in terms of growing their business and also being able to get funding or partnerships with big primes to be able to get work experience in the government space. And then the last program is the veteran-owned small business, which is designed to support small businesses that are 51% owned by veterans. And that program too is divided into two: the veteran-owned small business and the SDVOSB. So the two programs are very similar in that the whole purpose is to help veterans once they retire from the army to be able to get opportunities in terms of getting contracts with the federal government. Next slide, please. So now Finn is going to go into the process of how to apply and what are some of the criteria to qualify for these programs.
Sure. Thank you, Omar. So I'll go ahead and talk through the application processes. Uh, the application processes. So the first one I want to make sure people are aware of, and it wasn't mentioned in the previous slide because the small business certification and the small disadvantaged business SDB certification are not really certifications in the traditional sense. They're not reviewed by an outside party in the same way as those other ones. So they are done via self-certification through SAM.gov. Felt that was important to mention because there's oftentimes some confusion around that. And there are still set-asides for small businesses as well as small disadvantaged businesses. So those are done while you're going through SAM. So they're self-certifications that are completed throughout the course of your SAM.gov registration. I think it often confuses people because the small business one is done automatically as when you enter information into SAM.gov, and I'll talk about what makes a small business in a minute. And small disadvantaged business is a yes or no checkbox. All of the other certifications are now under a unified SBA certification portal. That's at certifications.sba.gov. There used to be a certification, not plural.sba.gov, that had like the WOSB application, and there were just a couple of things scattered around, but now it's all in one site, which is really nice, and it makes it a bit more available to do. Uh, the application process is all through this site. So this is a screenshot of certifications.sba.gov. I took this directly from their website, but they have some good tools on here. Like there's a should you apply section where you can click on it and find out if you're ready, quote unquote, to be certified. Again, this is sort of just a quick checklist from them. So if you have any questions or concerns, we can help you dive more into that. There's application preparation, which is really nice to get a sense of what documentation you need. And I'll talk through some of that documentation in a bit, but it can help sort of have that list in front of you. And then there's a HUBZone calculator, which you can utilize to see if your business qualifies. Again, it's a nice to have sort of thing there to make those determinations when you're looking to pursue those applications, but it's something we can dive a bit more in depth into with you as well. So there's common documents that are spread across all of these certifications. There is the requirement for an active SAM.gov registration, first and foremost. there is the requirement for tax returns, both personal and business, or joint tax returns if you file them together. There's proof of status, so this document does differ depending on the application. It could be if you're applying for a women-owned small business, it could be a birth certificate to provide proof of gender. If you're going for service disabled veteran, you would utilize your VA disability rating information as well as your information for proof of veteran status. I just saw a question come in about veteran disability. And yes, if you have a disability rating from the VA, that qualifies you from the service disabled veteran certification. It's all done through the same portal, so you'll fill out the application for veteran-owned small business / service disabled, and then you indicate that you do have a disability rating. There'll be a resume required of the applicant or applicants if you have multiple owners that qualify for the program. Because again, 51% ownership or control is required, but if you have, say, for example, 2 service disabled veterans owning a small business, they are both relied upon for the certification if combined, right? Their total is above 51%. So you would then submit the resumes, proof of contracts and or subcontracting payments. So just to show that you've done work before. It doesn't necessarily need to be federal work. It does need to be just sort of showing that you've had some contract payments, whether private or public, or subcontracting payments made to you. If you don't have a contract, right, it could just be examples of payments and invoicing. There needs to be business operating agreements and bylaws. If you don't have any of that stuff, say, if you don't have bylaws, but you have an operating agreement or vice versa, again, this is just to show that you have ownership or control. Not as big of a deal if there's just one owner. I know a lot of times, sole proprietors don't necessarily have an operating agreement or bylaws because it's just them. So in that case, it's okay. You'll just need to submit just a quick explainer of that, a few sentences explaining the situation. Stock certificates and ownership ledger. Again, this is if applicable. So if you have it, it needs to be submitted. If not, that's fine. Same with business licenses and permits. We don't mean that there needs to be a licensing for your business. You do need to be registered to do business, obviously, but the business licensing and permits would be if there's specific requirements for your industry. Then the lease or deed to your office space, if you work from home, you can specify that. Or if you own your home and work from there, you can specify that as well. So this is a list of common documents. Again, there might be one or two that you don't necessarily sort of have on all of them, but the nice thing about this unified certification portal that the SBA has is that all documents that you input can be utilized for the different applications. You used to have to go through, and if you qualified for multiple, you would go through and enter like your tax returns 3 times, which was not super fun. So now I'm going to talk a bit about narratives. Again, this is something that's not required for all certifications. The day-to-day responsibilities and typical activities is a narrative that is not requested, but it's something that we recommend clients generate for anything they're going after. If it's not HUBZone, just to show, again, that you're the owner, that this is what I typically do day to day, especially if you have multiple owners and one is not relied upon, so they're not someone who qualifies for the certification, but you have a minority owner. It's nice for the SBA to be able to see that, hey, this is what the majority owner does day to day. These are their responsibilities. It can give them a good picture of why you're the one who really is, taking the reins on the business. If you're going for the 8A program, you're required to submit a social disadvantage narrative. This used to not be a requirement for every single applicant. There used to be a category for that they called presumption of disadvantage, where there were certain categories and they had a list on their site, racial, ethnic, or categories or socioeconomic ones that gave you sort of presumed disadvantage. So you didn't have to submit this narrative, but now these narratives are required. I did see a question come into the chat, which Omar did touch briefly on, but I'll sort of touch more on it here on sort of what makes a disadvantaged business owner and the definition. So again, this goes for both small disadvantaged business, that's self-certification, and the 8A program, but the 8A program is the only one that you're required to generate this narrative for. So if you're self-certifying, you should be thinking about this stuff, but you aren't most likely, there's very rarely cases where you'll be required to prove that disadvantage status, but for the 8A program, you do need to submit this narrative. There needs to be one objective distinguishing feature, so it can't be a subjective assumption of disadvantage, uh, uh, social disadvantage. It needs to be an objective distinguishing feature, which again, objective is a little bit up to interpretation, which is why we have these other determinations here. So the social disadvantage must be rooted in treatment experienced in American society. So it needs to be experienced treatment. It can't just be perceived sort of disadvantage. There needs to be an actual sort of widely understood social component to it. So widely understood that the majority of American society might feel or might have certain views about that sort of category. It must be chronic and substantial, not fleeting or insignificant. So again, this goes back to the narrative. It can't be just a singular sort of small instance of um, a negative impact against you based on social or socioeconomic standing, and it must be chronic and substantial. So there needs to be sort of a wider net cast over that, and the business owner must be negatively impacted in their entry or advancement into the business world based on that category. So basically, the uh, for this narrative, you'll need to provide examples. I think a very common one that we see is for people of certain categories, especially certain racial categories, passed over for promotions at their job because of the color of their skin. It needs to be in the narrative. There needs to be some sort of, again, proof that it's rooted in that specific thing that puts you in that category. So being able to either provide substantial proof like records if you ever received emails that sort of denigrated you for that thing which you're using in the application, or you can explain sort of things that people have said to you or explain situations. So really, I do suggest reaching out to us to work on these narratives. There's a lot that can go into it, and definitely crafting that narrative to show all these features is important and very complex. So I'll go through benefits of certification a bit more now. Omar honestly touched on pretty much all of them. So I won't go too in depth into it, but I just want to point out that there are definitely a few benefits. We never tell people, right, that getting any of these certifications automatically guarantees you contracts, nor is it necessary to get contracts. If you think you qualify for one and we go through the application process and you're denied, still plenty of work you can do with the federal government, especially because all of you who we work with will be small businesses, and there are set asides for that already. But it does give you a couple of benefits, and including the ability to bid on contracts that are set aside for your category, either fully or partially. Increase subcontracting opportunities with prime contractors that need to meet their goals. Access to restricted GWACs, government-wide acquisition contracts. 8A stars is, I think, the biggest example of that. There's the ability to receive sole source awards. The amount that sole source awards can be varies by program. And then there's increased visibility due to federal spending goals, right? So each agency needs to meet a specific spending goal, which I will touch on later when I talk about changes to the current federal landscape. But again, the federal government needs to meet these statutory goals on spending for certain members of these certified classes, and so that gives you a bit of increased visibility if an agency is looking to meet those goals and has not already. So I'll go next into the current landscape and changes. This is an ever-evolving category, so this by no means is an exhaustive list of changes or is a list of changes that may be accurate in a couple of months. We like to do these updates periodically. There's some other really good resources that we recommend that people keep an eye on to be appraised of these updates. Those are in our newsletter, the partners that we recommend checking out. We have some of their articles and things like that, but just good to stay up to date on these sort of things. But I'm going to go through what some of the most important sort of current standings and changes have been that I see affecting, the people who are likely attending today. So I mentioned that federal agencies have certain spends they need to do for each category. So the statutory goals for small business of 23%, WOSB, SDB, and SDVOSB are 5%, not 5% combined, that is 5% per each category, and HUBZone is 3%. So this is federal contracting dollars that need to be spent in these categories. It is not a percentage of contracts, just to clarify. I have this in the current landscape and changes, not because these statutory numbers have changed necessarily, but because the executive branch has sort of the discretion to tell agencies if they want to exceed these goals or just meet them. So small business was one that just has been seeing increased spending. So I think fiscal year 24, it was like 29% of contracting dollars went to small businesses. So they've not said, the current administration has not said that they want agencies to maintain that higher spend. But there's no reason to think that it's going to drop significantly, but just to know that 23% is the goal, and that has sort of historically been broken. The only meaningful change is to the small disadvantaged business self-certification category, which needs to have 5% usage. The Biden administration had directed agencies to try to reach 15%. That didn't happen, but it was a direction that they wanted to reach. But the current administration has not directed agencies to do that. So it's just going to be basically at that 5% threshold still. Again, these are statutory minimums set in statute. If they change, it'll require extensive debate and legislative changes. So we don't really expect these to change. But again, anything can happen. So definitely make sure to keep your eye out. But for now, there's not really there's not like, people often ask me, oh, are there certifications that I just shouldn't get based on sort of like, is anything going to go away? And that's not something we see happening at this particular moment in time. The next thing I want to talk about is the 8A overhaul. The Oh, and just to be clear, the 8A sort of falls under that small disadvantaged business goal, so it's under that 5%, along with that self-certification. So the 8A, like I mentioned earlier, all applications all applicants are required to submit a narrative now. There's no more presumption of disadvantage. So I touched on that. The merger or sale of a business that has 8A certification means automatic decertification. Before, it did not mean that. There was a sort of a process to go through for determining continuation, but there's automatic decertification now. Really new as of very recently, the federal government has announced that there is going to be a large-scale audit of the 8A program. So if any of you are currently certified 8As, you'll need to provide financial documentation from the last 3 fiscal years for your business. Some graduates are also required to do this if they've recently graduated from the program. For those of you who don't know, the 8A program is not a full lifetime certification. It is a 9-year program. So the recent applicants are required to participate in these audits. There's also the increased requirement for competition on schedule contracts. I will not dive too deep into this again because it's a decently niche sort of change, but the federal contracting officers are required to put up schedule contracts for competition if they're set aside for 8As. They used to be able to use their discretion to sole source schedule contracts to eligible 8As, but now they're required to go through competition. So again, not super broadly applicable, but is good to know, especially if you're considering pursuing that certification. There's still a lot of benefit to it. It just, when looking through the typical playbook of how to take advantage of your certification, we want to be sure that you are using the most up-to-date information. Then I'll go through the HUBZone requirements. Their new stricter work requirements for employees. So an employee for HUBZone, for those of you who don't know, 35% of employees must reside in a HUBZone, not necessarily the HUBZone that the main business office is in, but they need to be in a HUBZone. So to mean that your business is eligible for certification. The requirement used to be 40 hours a month, but the SBA has specified that that also means that the work requirements means 10 hours per week need to be, and this is because, right, there's different definitions of employee, quote unquote, when it comes to who is employed by a business. So there's that 10 hours a week. Again, if there's like 1 or 2 weeks where an employee is off and they're not working or something like that, there is still the ability to meet that 40-hour a month threshold. It's just that's the sort of general, it needs to be most of the year, it needs to be that 10 hours per week threshold. Again, if that employee is to be counted as an employee that you're including for the HUBZone goal. There is also the requirement that that goal be reached within a year of certification. So if your main office is in a HUBZone and you're only at 30%, you could still apply. But if you get certified and get a contract, need to reach that goal promptly. The Not a huge change. The language was just a little more ambiguous before about the timeline, and there's more on a case-by-case basis. And then lastly, there's some changes to set-asides for multiple award contracts. So that's things like the GSA schedule for those of you who are familiar, and if not, no worries. We can definitely meet and talk with you more about it, but small business status is no longer determined per order. It's determined at the time of award. So it used to be that when individual orders were put through, that the government had to recheck that you were a small business. Now it's just at the time of award. So this is a good change, sort of meant to streamline the acquisition process. Small business status, like I said before, is determined automatically in SAM.gov based on your NAICS code. So each business is a bit different in terms of it's either your average annual receipts over the last 5 years, there's a certain threshold that you need to be below, or the number of employees needs to be below a certain amount based on your NAICS codes. So you put all that info into SAM, and it'll automatically determine if you're a small business or not. And so as long as that information is up to date at the time of award, should be good to go. And then there used to be automatic triggers for set-asides on scheduled contracts. So contracting officer would put out like a blanket, like a broad agency announcement, and it would automatically sort of trigger, hey, this should be set aside for small disadvantaged businesses. Hey, this should be set aside for hub zones. That automatic requirement is no longer there, so it's up to contracting officer discretion. Again, not a huge change, but just sort of good to know that since it's up to contracting officer discretion, there's definitely a bit more positioning that you can do in terms of discussing with contracting officers the benefits of leveraging that certification and how your business, if you have that certification, would be a great fit for sort of a scheduled contract, and it's in your best interest as someone with that certification to have it be set aside for you and others like you, because there's a lot of competition maybe from like large businesses, right, that you can't necessarily compete with as aggressively. That is the last slide I have here. So I'll turn it back. I see there are a bunch of questions in the chat, some of them that
Yes.
Omar has been answering, which is
Yeah.
awesome.
The most recent one is about the HUBZone program. So it's about our business operates in a hub zone, but our employees' home addresses aren't in hub zone. Does that disqualify us?
Yeah, I can speak to that. So like I said, needs to be 35% is that number that needs to be met of your employees need to reside in a hub zone. If they do not, then yes, that would mean you are not eligible. Again, if you are at 35 and you apply and then someone leaves and you're below 35, that doesn't disqualify you. You do need to, if you ever dip below that 35%, be showing that you're making an active effort to hire in a hub zone, and you can't just be in that limbo again forever. But yes, the requirement is that generally 35% of people who are considered employees are residing in a hub zone. And part of that sort of 10-hour work requirement or 40 hours per month, again, is that employee is not necessarily just determined as someone who is on payroll. It could be a contractor that you have, but if they're working above that time threshold, then they could be considered an employee. So good to keep in mind while you're going through that. And again, with specific questions, you can reach out to us about those and we can talk through those situations. Yeah, I'm gonna scroll. I'm just gonna go from the bottom back up. I see someone asked about ISO certification. That is something that can be helpful for your business. ISO 9001 certification won't have any negative impacts. It's not a federal, controlled by the federal government, so we didn't touch on that here. But and it's not something that the SBA oversees or is a like broad requirement, but it could be required on some contracts. So definitely on a case-by-case basis, can answer certainly more questions about that. Let me see. Someone asked about the oh yeah, the changes to the social disadvantage narratives. So there's been increased scrutiny of the 8A program. There was a decision a few years ago called Ultima that was the one that required everyone to submit that narrative, regardless of there used to be that presumption that I mentioned to sort of streamline the application process, and there's no longer a presumption. Everyone needs to submit a narrative. For now, right, the 8A small disadvantaged business programs are statutory, so they can't really be changed. But as we see with the current, audit that was just announced of the past 3 years of financials and a couple of things that you may have seen in the news, there's increased scrutiny on the small disadvantaged business program. So there certainly is a light being shined on that certification that and like the audit is meant to root out waste and abuse in that program. So the depending on the findings of that, there might be changes made to the program. It really is just sort of unclear what direction that's headed in right now. There's definitely increased scrutiny on it, but as to the future of it, again, we're not entirely sure. Still going back up, I think, Omar, you answered this question about
Yeah.
1 in 3 owners. But yeah, that is correct. If the one owner, if it's split equally, 33, 33, 33, then no, you would not qualify, because there is the need for there to be majority ownership and control. I do want to point out, if you have 51% ownership of a business, but you don't work there, you just have it in title, your business would not qualify. There needs to be ownership and control, needs to be full, like, that needs to be where you spend the most of your time working. Again, you can have multiple businesses potentially and have that certification with one of them, but it needs to be a business that you spend time at and spend time working at. Veteran disability does not qualify as disadvantaged because there's a separate certification for it. You can get both if you meet a social disadvantage category. So race, ethnicity, gender, religion, things like that. But there's not a veteran is under that other category. And let me see. Is there anything else? Looking at. Oh, I see one just came in. Yes. So if you don't qualify for any of these, again, small business, like I said, is still the largest set aside category. So there's still really good opportunities out there for you as just simply being certified as a small business in your SAM.gov registration. Really important to make sure for all of you, again, that your small business profile is up to date. And if you have questions about that, you can reach out to us. But these certifications, including small businesses, are more tools in your tool belt rather than things that guarantee your contract. If you qualify for them, they are helpful to utilize because they are available to you. But like you see, these programs have a lot of requirements. There's no guarantees to work in any of them. Contracting officers have, as Omar said, to do sort of that market research, the rule of two, all of that stuff to determine if things even should be set aside. So, it requires a lot of positioning and a lot of and some networking and some active communication to make sure that you're either fully taking advantage of your certification or to make sure that you are staying eligible for things that you think you would be a good fit for. So responding to sources sought, responding to requests for information, reaching out to contracting officers, some of the tools that are good to leverage when it comes to contracting.
There's a question in the chat. So if one of the partner is not a U.S. citizen but a green card holder, do we still qualify for these certifications? You'll qualify if the business is 51% owned by the citizen, by a citizen. 51%. It has to be 51% owned by the citizen.
Yep. Yep. And then I see someone asked that this was a federal contracting webinar, but does your office help with state contracts? We do. We help with federal, state, and local. Focus on this specific presentation was on federal contracts, um, uh, contracting certifications. But yes, we do help with state ones and local ones. We work closely with Empire State Development here in New York State on their minority and women-owned business enterprise certification program. We are a fast track partner for them when they have initiatives, and we help plenty of people with those applications. There's also, if you notice, we talked a lot about service disabled veteran-owned small business, but there is also a New York State service disabled owned veteran business certification. So we help with that too. And we also do help get contracts in the state as well as at the federal level, not just with the certifications. Okay, I see one more question came in. Not only do we manufacture, but we have a formal distribution agreement with a major manufacturer to sell LED bulb lights. Does this qualify? Uh, Definitely like to, well, okay, I say off the bat, I can speak sort of generally. Definitely happy to speak with you on your specific circumstances, again, just to make sure that I have all the information. But as a general rule, if you're a supplier and you have a distribution agreement, but you're not a direct manufacturer, yes, you can still qualify for any certification that you're eligible for. Um, it's not so much what you do that matters, it's that you qualify and that what you do falls under the purview. So for example, women-owned small business, not every NAICS code has set aside contracts for women-owned small businesses. So I don't know off the top of my head if resale of LED light bulbs is something that has set aside contracts under the WOSB program. But if it didn't, then you might not want to pursue it because it wouldn't make sense. But as a general rule of thumb, there's NAICS codes for wholesale, not just manufacturing. So as long as you're not what the SBA would consider a pass-through, which is why these requirements are so strict. They don't want large businesses sort of just having a small business that they utilize for that certification and passing all of their business through them. So again, the owner doesn't really do anything at the business. There's no other business work that doesn't come from that one supplier. The small business doesn't take any share of profit in any of those contracts. Again, all sort of those factors together would designate you as a pass-through. More of a complex look into that is done by the SBA. But I would say yes, you'd still certainly, if you're a wholesaler or reseller, still definitely would qualify for these certifications. Okay.
We have 10 minutes left. Any remaining questions? Please feel free to put it in the chat.
Yeah, I'll give it one more second. But you can see here, these are our current counselors. We just had them up here so you can get familiar with whom is at our program. I will say this is a bit of a dated picture of some of us. I think Omar, you had yours recently,
Yeah.
but mine's like 3 years old now in there. But yeah, this is our team, and while we're waiting for any last questions, I will put up this final slide. So we have two QR codes here. One for our website and one directly to our application. Then there's also the email address for our general inbox here. So if you want to email that as well, you can. I do recognize definitely some of your names as either clients or people who we've met at different webinars or events or things like that. So if you're not sure if you're signed up with us, like maybe you haven't met with us in a while, that does sometimes happen. as small businesses, we do know you all are very busy. So if you're not sure if you're signed up with us, just reach out and send an email. And if you're already assigned to a counselor, we can get something scheduled for you. If you're not, we can send you over the application link.
There's a question in the chat. Do you have to have any of these certifications to qualify for a contracting opportunity? No, you don't. But having the certification definitely helps in terms of getting limited competition.
Yep. Yeah, and like Omar said, all of you should qualify likely. And again, our clients are all small businesses, right? And so you should automatically be qualified for those. Again, you do need to have the SAM.gov registration filled out and correct to be qualified as a small business. But yeah, the only times where you wouldn't necessarily qualify are, again, those 5% goals for those individualized programs like 8A, WOSB, HUBZone is 3. If there are things that are 100% set aside for those certifications, then you would not qualify as a prime contractor. Again, let me be very clear. There's lots of opportunities for small businesses with certifications and without specific certifications to work with each other. If something's there might be contracts with partial goals, there might be contracts with full goals, but they still require subcontractors. So if it's set aside for service disabled veterans, but 100%, but your business doesn't have the full capacity, you can have a subcontractor that's not a service disabled veteran-owned small business. There's certain rules and regulations and all that kind of stuff regarding this. Very complex topic that, again, we'd be happy to talk about with you in your specific situations, but there's plenty of opportunities for teaming agreements, partnerships, that sort of thing. And again, the majority of federal contract spending is doled out to no set-asides. And again, it's sometimes hard to compete with large businesses, but we do see small businesses win contracts that are in full and open competition. A lot of the times there are other advantages to your business besides just your status. I would say very few businesses I have that I work with only win contracts that are set aside. It does happen and it can be a viable business model, but there's a lot out there. And again, it's just one thing that contributes to the overall sort of picture of your business and the overall draw to it. There is here, I'm gonna go, yes. So the question was, I need help with uploading a capability statement. Can your office help with that? Yes, we certainly can. For a second, let me see if I can quickly, I don't wanna can I quickly, oh, I can. All right, let me quickly flip back to the services that we offer. But yes, we do help with capabilities statements. Again, this is a good list of things that we help with. Again, it's not exhaustive, but yeah, we help with capability statements, and those are great things to talk about with us, especially right now with sort of you'll see there are a lot of, like I said, we have a lot of webinars that we refer people to and refer clients to. Some of them are of the mind that now is a good time to be removing set-asides potentially from your capability statement for the federal government, because there is sort of this scrutiny on some programs. We might not necessarily agree, but there's sort of a lot of information around there, and a lot of people have opinions on what to do and what not to do. So we're always happy to meet with you and have a more in-depth conversation, rather than just giving you sort of general advice on things like your capability statement. I find it's really best to be case specific with those sorts of things. Great. All right, let me flip back to the connect with us slide in case there's any other questions in the last 3 minutes or anyone else didn't get a chance to navigate to these pages. Yeah. If anyone missed it, we'll be getting a copy of this presentation, as well as a link to the recording as well, if any of you would like to go back and revisit any of this info. All right. Oh, oh, thank you. Well, yeah, you all, Omar, do you have anything else you wanted to add, or?
Nope. If you have any questions or any assistance needed, just feel free to reach out to us.
Yeah, let me just put the email in the chat as well, if anyone wants to copy it. But again, we'll send you these slides. Have a great day, everyone. And thank you for attending this webinar. Look forward to hearing from you if you aren't signed up as a client, or if you are, definitely happy to connect, and have a good rest of your day and week.
Yep.
Yep.
Bye.